Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Welcome to Peter's Movie Reviews. Today, I want to talk about the I feel like there's 9 million versions of this, the 2025 version of War of the Worlds, the version that we did not know that we needed. Okay, this movie is so bad. It is so bad. I will get right into this and I will let you know. On a scale of 1 to 10, and I've explained my rating system before, but if you want me to do a dedicated video to my rating system, I will do that. But on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely horrible, 10 being just one of the most profound, fantastic movies I've ever seen, I would give this movie about a 2. But for some reason, I could not stop watching this movie. I cannot explain it. Okay, so let me give you a little synopsis on this movie and tell you about this movie. This movie is starring Ice Cube. It came out on July 30th of 2025. I believe that it is airing on Prime right now if you want to watch it. It's an hour and 29 minutes. A computer security analyst working for the U.S. government finds his daily life disrupted by an alien attack. Accustomed to dealing with virtual threats, his struggle extends to secrets the government may be hiding. And it stars Ice Cube, Eva Longoria, Devin Bostic, and I don't know the rest of these people. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so let me just tell you about my history with War of the Worlds for a second. And I feel like I can really speak to this, okay? Because I have a long history of War of the Worlds. Now, I have to tell you that growing up, I'm 53 years old. I was born in 1972. There were several different things that when I was growing up that I was very, very intrigued with, okay? And no, not just Amelia Bedelia and Nate the Great, the books. I was very, very intrigued with anything Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. That was something that was highly talked about when I was a kid growing up. In fact, I can remember one year for Christmas, my dad giving my cousin Caroline and I these Bigfoot things that you could put in the snow, and people were seeing Bigfoot sightings everywhere. Loch Ness Monster, everybody was talking about it. I still believe in Nessie. I still believe in the Loch Ness Monster to this day. The other thing that a lot of people talked about back in the day was the Titanic, okay? To the point where when I started understanding about past lives, I was so obsessed with the Titanic and reading about the Titanic. I think I did 14 book reports about the Titanic. I watched the movie, To Raise the Titanic, or whatever that horrible movie was. I've watched the made-for-TV movies. I've watched all the interviews of the survivors. Of course, I've watched the James Cameron one. I've seen the documentaries about those horrible things that happened just a couple years ago. I even covered that on my TV channel. I am obsessed with anything to do with the Titanic. To the point, like I said, when I started understanding what past life regression was, I was like, was I a survivor, or did I die in the Titanic? Is that why I'm so obsessed with it? But no, I don't think I was. The other thing that I was obsessed with back in the day was War of the Worlds. And the reason why is my dad was born in 1940. And he grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the youngest of 5 kids. My grandfather was a homicide detective. And so my dad, when he grew up, was very, very poor. This is before people had televisions. And so my dad and my aunts and uncles would tell me stories about when they were growing up as kids. They would sit around the radio like every night and they would listen to their favorite radio shows. They would listen to, Fibber McGee and Molly and Jack Burns. And they would listen in The Shadow, only The Shadow knows. And they would listen to their favorite shows. And I was so intrigued with that era that there was no television. They would just lay on the floor, right? And so like I said, my dad was born in 1940. His brother I believe my dad's oldest brother was 20 years older than him. So when I was growing up, my dad told me the original story of the radio broadcasting of the original War of the Worlds with Orson Welles. Now, if you do not know about this, let me educate you a little bit. So the novel, the original novel of War of the Worlds, I believe came out in 1898 or something like that. Yeah, it was by H.G. Wells. The War of the Worlds, fiction novel by English author H.G. Wells, attempted invasion of Earth by beings from the planet Mars with much greater intelligence and more advanced weapons than humans. It came out in 1898. Okay, so then, if you do not know about this story, and you can still listen to it on YouTube, you can still find it out there, you can see they've done whole documentaries about Orson Welles narrating this. The original War of the Worlds radio production was a live 3-part Halloween broadcast on October 30th, 1938. So this would have been 2 years before my dad was born, by Orson Welles' Mercury Theater on the Air. The adaptation of H.G. Wells' novel presented a realistic news bulletin style account of a Martian invasion of Earth. causing widespread panic among many listeners who mistook the broadcast for a real event. The iconic broadcast launched the 23-year-old Orson Welles into international fame as in considered a landmark, a viral trending moment, like on TikTok these days, considered a landmark moment in media history, demonstrating the powerful influence of radio. And it says on here you can watch this video to see the clip of it. Okay, so if you guys don't know, they did this like radio broadcast of, they didn't just read the book. He acted like he was this newscaster, Orson Welles did. I've listened to this thing so many times. Back when I was a kid, I listened to it a lot. I was so intrigued with it. And it's so kind of scary, even to this day. And so he was like this news broadcaster. And I think it starts off and he goes, okay, we're breaking this newscast or whatever to break in with a special news story. An alien invasion has happened. So as you're listening to this like hour and a half radio show, it sounds like an alien invasion is happening in the world. Well, people really thought this was real. Like, they really thought, like, an alien invasion was happening. Can you imagine, like, this happening today? Okay. So, through the years, I have loved, I haven't loved, but I've watched every movie that has come out, remake of War of the Worlds. I've seen the 1953 version. I've seen the version that came out in the 90s. I've seen the version that came out 10 years ago. So, when this version came out, I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this. Like, I was really, really excited about it. I saw that it was trending on top 10. Now, I have to tell you, since then, I watched the TV show on MGM Plus, which is called The Institute. The season 1 of The Institute, which I did my whole reaction to on my Peter Watches TV channel, which is where I do all TV reactions. So when I got done with that, I also love the TV show From. So I was like, I want another MGM Plus scary show. One of their shows that they have on MGM Plus is War of the Worlds, a 3-part series that takes place in England and France. If you are going to watch, okay, a video representation, go watch that. I just started season 2 last night. It is fantastically done. It is starring Gabriel Byrne. It is so well done. MGM Plus, War of the Worlds. I would highly, highly recommend it. This movie, though, was so bad. It was so bad. I could not stop watching it. Okay, so it's been like 2 or 3 weeks since I've watched it. What it is it's Ice Cube. And he is sitting like in this office, in this government office, and none of it really makes sense, okay? So his daughter is pregnant, and she's got, I think, this fiance that you can tell Ice Cube doesn't really like anyway, okay? And then he's got this son that I thought, if you ever watched commentary channels, because I have a commentary channel, I thought it was D'Angelo Wallace. I was like, D'Angelo Wallace is now like an actor in this. I thought it was D'Angelo Wallace, but anyway, it wasn't. But this kid was as smart as D'Angelo Wallace. So anyway, so I'm watching this and I'm like, what is this show about? It is literally the entire thing. I was talking to my therapist earlier today. He was like, what videos are you making today? I said, I'm going to do this reaction to War of the Worlds. He goes, the new one with Ice Cube? And I go, yeah. And he goes, I heard the whole thing is like a Zoom call. I was like, the entire thing is a Zoom call. So the whole thing, which probably could have been filmed, I don't know, like a budget of like $10,000, except for they had to pay Ice Cube and Eva Longoria. Okay, so Ice Cube is this high-level, reports to the president, okay, but works in a very non-secure office, government office, in the middle of, I believe, like Washington, D.C. or New York. I don't know. And the whole thing is all on like a Zoom call. It would have made more sense if like he was like sick in bed and couldn't leave the office, but there's no reason like he can't go to a meeting or he can't leave anywhere. So the whole thing takes place from his computer on the Zoom call. But at the same time, he's trying to figure out who this hacker is, okay? Because he's like, works for the NSA, like the National Security, okay? So like the whole time, he's like trying to figure out who this like government, big, huge hacker is that's hacking into these government systems. Well, when you start watching it, like, it doesn't, like, his son comes, so he's constantly, like, talking to his daughter, and he's, like, tracking them. He's, like, the world's biggest stalker in the entire world. Like, his daughter's, like, in this convenience store, and she's buying, like, candy, and he's, like, calls her on the phone, he's like, you shouldn't have that candy. He's, like, watching her on the candy. It's so effing weird, okay? And so she's like, stop watching me and stop calling me. And then he's, like, calling his dad, or he's calling his son, and who's like at a non-disclosed location. And his son's like, Dad, I have something to tell you. Dad, I have something to tell you, because they start having these alien attacks, right? And so these alien attacks come all over the United States. Eva Longoria plays like this national security person that's like on the ground. She's constantly moving to where these sites are, okay? And so he's communicating with her through the Zoom calls and stuff like that. And then he's telling his kids to like get off the streets and they need to just be in buildings because of course aliens can't take down buildings. So they're in a building or a Tesla, because later he puts his daughter in a Tesla so he can drive it all through the computer to get her to the hospital in time. But anyway, so he's like, you got to be in buildings and all this kind of stuff. And the whole time his son's like, Dad, I have something to tell you. Dad, I have something to tell you. Well, I knew the first time he said it, I was like, oh, the kid's the hacker. And the kid's going to be the hacker that's going to solve all of this in the end, which is exactly what happens. The movie was so fucking bad. I wasted like an hour and a half. Well, how long was the movie? I don't even know how long was the movie. The movie was so bad. Hold on, what does it say? An hour and 29 minutes. The movie was so bad, but like I literally could not stop watching it. At this one point, like the dad, like Ice Cube hates his daughter's, I think it's her fiance or something like that. It's her boyfriend and she's expecting this baby. And so like he hates the boyfriend. He thinks the boyfriend's like a loser and all this kind of stuff, right? And the boyfriend, to be honest with you, really can't pull it together. I mean, like he doesn't really know. He's like, I'm running down the street. What street am I in? And like, and he's constantly, so Ice Cube's constantly typing on his computers and pulling windows up and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, you're like literally like a cyber stalker. But then he'll be like, do I have the president on the line? And then I'm like, all of a sudden, like none of it makes sense. He's got like the president online, but then he's talking to like Eva Longoria. It's like this man, Ice Cube, who's like in like a t-shirt and jeans sitting in this like office. There's nobody else in this office either because he tries to get out at one point. He tries to leave the office and the office is completely empty. The budget of this movie is so fucked. They literally like stuck, I think they like took like one floor of an office building and they put each of them in a room and just filmed it separately, okay? All of Eva Longoria's scenes are done like, she has to go into this building and then like she has to go next to these aliens. It's all green screened. It's so embarrassing how bad it is. But I could not stop watching it. I was like, oh my God, I could not stop watching this because I love the story, you know, of War of the Worlds. It is so bad, you guys. And then he puts his daughter, he's like, you need to run down the street. There's a Tesla. Or he doesn't say Tesla. But he's like, there's a car. Then the door opens and she gets like, she can hardly get in and she gets in this car. Then he's driving the Tesla and the alien's trying to come in. He's like, vroom, 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 vroom. And it's like the Clash, you know. The king pulled out his jet fighters. Vroom, vroom. It's like that. And then the alien's trying to like get the car. And the car's weaving all through like Washington, D.C. or New York or Baltimore or Oklahoma City. I don't know where she's at. But anyway. And it's like, and then the boyfriend's like, but I don't know where you are. And then like, she's trying to just get to the hospital, but there's nobody at the hospital. There's nobody anywhere because they've all been killed by the aliens. And then she gets to the hospital and then he's like, but then she's got to like take this piece of like metal out of her arm or something like that because she was stupid enough because he thinks his daughter's real smart because she's like a scientist too. But then she like goes out on the street where the aliens are because like her dad, who's like the smartest guy in the country because like he's in charge of like the National Security Association and the Justice Department and he's like the first man that the president calls and all this kind of stuff. He's just in this office that nobody even knows where, and it got no protection on the windows or nothing like that. But she don't listen to her dad. She just runs out to see the aliens. She's like, oh, Dad, the aliens. And then she's like running down the street, and then she gets like this metal on her leg or arm or something like that. And then she has to pull the metal out. Then the boyfriend kind of saves the day because he like duct tapes it or something. I don't know. But then the hacker son is the one that he like goes in and he like warps like, and then they show like, it's not just the United States because why would it be? It's all over the world that this is happening. All these aliens are landing and coming down. And then the son, who's like the most genius hacker in the entire world, of course he is. And then like, he, you know what I mean? And then like, he like defaults the system and then all the aliens are like, oh, we're dying. And we're going to go back to outer space. And then that's how it ends. But all the cities are destroyed. And then, but it doesn't matter because Ice Cube, he still has his job at the end because he saved the president, I think. I don't remember. I don't. At that point, I just was like, what's going on? At one point, he like tries to get out and then his son's like, but Dad, I'm the hacker. And he's like, you're the hacker. I'm so mad at you. And then he's like, but can you save us? And he's like, yeah, I can save you. I'm a hacker. You know, and so anyway, it was bad. It was so bad. It was, you don't want to watch it. But maybe you do. I couldn't stop watching it. I couldn't stop watching it. It was so bad. Maybe I'll give it 3 stars because it was so bad. Maybe I'll give it 4 stars. I don't know. What is the rating? Should we look on here and see what the rating is? War of the Worlds 2025 rating. Let's see what it's Rotten Tomatoes rating. What is it given on Rotten Tomatoes? As if they know shit. Okay. The War of the Worlds film from 2025 starring Ice Cube and released on Amazon Prime holds a critically panned Rotten Tomatoes score of 3. Oh my God, I gave it 3 out of 10. Oh my God. Mid-August, it was bad. While the film debuted with a rare 0 score. I mean, was it supposed to be that bad? Because it's like one of those shows like you just can't stop watching. You know what I mean? Like if you asked me, should I watch it? I'd be like, oh, it's horrible, right? But like, it's so horrible that you kind of like, I don't know, if you start watching it, you won't be able to stop. Because it wasn't one of those shows that I was like, I'm going to give it 10 more minutes, and if it doesn't turn around, then I'm done. It was like, I just couldn't stop watching it. It was like such a shit show. Anyway, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.